How can your business sustain sales growth in Canada? Well, first I want to talk about three main mistakes that we observe here, right? The first thing that international companies do that does not work very well is just purely to send a salesperson here without having before done a good homework, right? So before homework, sending somebody here, it's a guaranteed cost with a very uncertain return. Second mistake is just to purely hire a local experienced person in Canada to open doors, hoping that that will generate sustainable growth over time. And the third mistake we typically see is that think that a few what I call lucky sales that happen early on, that will mean that organic growth of the business is going to be relatively easy, just a natural consequence. Well, we're going to see why these don't work in this video. And click on the link on the description here. And we here at Lucalex, we help businesses of different sizes at different stages of this journey in Canada, including those that are already operating in Canada. Okay, but let's jump at it. So there's typically 8 actions that we see here that help achieve sustainable sales. First thing I want to mention is preparation. So before even going out and starting to make sales pitch, it's extremely important to have gathered information ahead of time. Some people call these informational interviews, some people call these discovery calls, but typically what I've seen here in our experience, these are not sales calls, and these are meetings just to understand and learn information. And there's typically between 15 and 20 of these that are necessary before you actually understand what the problem is that you're trying to solve. Okay, that's the first point. So have to be patient and prepare ahead of time. Jumping straight to trying to sell without doing this step costs money and with very questionable results. Second thing, it's extremely important to identify a very specific pain and then only focus on that. I know this is a challenge for a lot of people. For example, the country where I came from originally, many years ago when I came to Canada, my country of origin is a country where the way you build trust is by your reputation. So if you start to tell people that you sell to the big corporations in the country, big multinationals, people will say, wow, they must be good, so I'm gonna talk to them. In Canada, that's not how it works. In Canada, people, we already believe that your company sells something that has good value. Their main question is not gonna be, are you good enough? Their main first question is going to be, why should I choose you? Why are you better than anybody else? And that speech about, oh, because I sell to big ones is not good enough. They want to know, how do I know that you solve my specific problem better than anybody else, better than all the other options that I have in the competition? So it may be counterintuitive to focus on one specific pain where your company may solve a lot of different problems, but the risk that you run here, if you start to talk about too many problems that you can solve, is that your reputation actually can be jeopardized. They may look at you and say, wow, are they really good at all this? So there's a power here in focus, right? If you focus on, you know what, this specific pain that your type of business has, I can solve this better than anybody else. And that's how you build trust in Canada. It's not about saying, well, I can solve any type of problem for any type of company in any sector, in any size, and I'm the best at all that. People are not going to believe you. Third point here of the 8 points that we're looking at, you also need to clearly and specifically define who is the person inside the company that you want to talk to. And there's another counterintuitive thing here. Maybe in your country of origin, this is obvious. It's like, well, I'm always going to want to talk to the person on top of the org chart. The higher, the better. If I can talk to the CEO, the better. Well, that's not always true in Canada. What happens is, in Canada, we do not have typically a top-down decision approach. The decisions tend to be very collaborative, right? I mean, you may have had the contact of the CEO first, but they will want to know the opinion of different areas, how that's going to impact the business in different ways. And it may be somebody 3-4 steps below the CEO that may ask questions that the conclusion is going to be that your business is not the best fit. So the fact that you want to focus just on the big name may not be the right strategy. That's going to be the case if your potential client is a small company. So of course you want to go and talk to the decision maker. But especially if you're selling to larger businesses, here's how you know who's the person you want to talk to. You want to talk to the person that has a pain that your solution solves very well, better than anything else in the market, so that this specific person inside the big company that you're targeting, this person becomes your internal salesperson, is that person that will politically talk to other people inside the company to try to convince their peers and their colleagues that your solution is the best and that they need to switch to you, right? So it's very important to understand who is the person you want to talk to, and this is typically not the same type of people you look for back in your country of origin, depending where you're coming from. Again, our channel is mostly for people that are coming from emerging countries that have societies that have a big disparity between the top and the bottom. Anyways, our fourth point is that you need to have a very specific competitive advantage that you understand very well. And again, we have great quality and better price. That's not it. They want to know specifically, are you faster? Are you more, smoother to adopt? Like, what are you doing better than your competitors? You're gonna know that after those 15 to 20 conversations you're gonna have. But you need to have clarity in your mind. What is that make you the best solution for that specific problem that we identified here in point number 2? And that will have to be a consistent approach in your marketing efforts and in your sales channels, right? You're always gonna be focused on what is it that you're better than anybody else in respect to that very specific pain that you realize that your potential client has. Point number 5, all your communications by email, by LinkedIn, in your social media, or in person when you go to an event, a function, a trade show, all your communication should always be focused on the pain points that you have identified. Your communication is not about how big your company is or the fact that you already sell to big multinationals in your country of origin. That will come eventually, that will be important, but down the road in the conversation, before they sign your contract and decide to work with you, they will want to check for references. They want to know, how do I know you're good? But it's not going to be the main motivation early in the process to decide to know more from you, to decide to explore, and to decide to get your proposal. It's not the fact that you sell to big companies in other places that will be attractive to them. What will be attractive to them is that you can take care of their pain points better than anybody else. Should always be looking for a sense of urgency. Do they have a migraine? Do they have a splitting headache that you can solve very quickly and make that problem go away? That is how your communication should focus with your potential clients. 6th point, very important. You should always try to be able to quantify the positive impact that your client is going to experience when they start to buy from you. How much faster their process is going to be, how much cheaper, how much cost they save, or how much more market they can get. Like, they need to understand the payoff quickly. Okay, this is how my life is going to be better. And that typically should be with numbers. People want to see some numbers. Okay, this gets reduced by 30%, it gets better by 20%, something along these lines. And that's where you back it with cases from back home. But be careful, the cases should always reflect a similarity to the people you're talking to. So if you have a case with a financial institution and you're talking to somebody in retail, they're gonna say, well, that's great you have a case, but it's a different, but the bank is the same thing because it's very big. Be careful. People are looking for similarity. They want to see themselves in what you're telling them and say, wow, you solved the problem of somebody just like me super well. You delivered this payoff to them or this final result to them, and I want the same thing. Tell me more. This is the feeling you want to generate in the people you're talking to. 7th point, are things really advancing towards a sale in Canada, right? The fact that you're having several meetings may not mean much, may just mean that somebody's not busy enough and they liked you. But how do you know you really are in the path to generate sales? And this is where you have to be careful to differentiate between marketing activities and actually sales activities. Because let's say if you hire a Canadian or somebody here in the Canadian market, and for the first 3 months, they're generating, 5-10 new meetings a week. Well, it could just mean that they're catching up and having lunch and coffee with their good friends, but not advancing your commercial goals at all. How do you know things are really moving on? Is the next meeting booked? Do I have a homework to do between today and the next meeting? So that's very important to decide, right? I mean, you need to have a homework and you need to have the next meeting booked. And 8th point, you should always be striving to use the right tools. A customer relationship management software, a CRM, to manage all these contacts that you have at different stages. And also your referral sources. Remember the importance of warm referrals that we talk about in other videos in our channel. Recapping here, big mistake that you don't want to make, just having a body in Canada, somebody that you sent or you moved here, or having hired somebody, that does not translate necessarily and take you very far in your sales effort. And there is a link here in the description, and please go there and see other ways where we can help a business like yours. Thank you. Have a good one.